Why, hello there. I am Christina Heideck of PTO Answers, and today I'm going to tell you exactly how to get parents to not ignore PTO events. And because I've put on so many different events for the PTAs that I've been involved with, I thought today would just be a great topic to dive into, especially since we're at the start of the year. It's at the end of September, and there's still time to change your potential missteps in this area so that you really can make sure that you're getting the biggest bang for your volunteer time, so that parents show up to the events that you're spending so much time and effort planning. So, thank you for joining me today. Why don't you, as you join the broadcast, just type in where you're joining me from. I'd love to see. We always seem to have people from all over the place, but I've never asked this question before. So, chime in with where you're from or where you're watching. I should say. Um, so. Um, I think I'm gonna get it. I didn't even figure out how many different ways. One, two, three, four, five, six different things that you can do that really impact whether or not people are going to actually pay attention to your events. And some are simple, and some may be like, well, duh. But there are even mistakes that I've made. So it's important just to go through them all. So without further ado, let's jump on in. So the first way that you can get parents to um, ignore your events. Let's start with the don'ts. Let's start that way. First thing you can do is give no notice or really late notice to events. Now, I know I've said this before, but say it again here because there's so much going on. Parents are so busy, families are so busy. And I know that's been probably true forever, but now it just seems recently like there are just so many activities scheduled all the time. I know my own family, we have hockey right now, I think 5 or 6 days a week. If the kids actually went to every single um, practice and skills and yada, yada, yada. So it can really be a lot. And so if parents are going to be able to come to events, they need to know about them and kind of toss around their schedule to make it work a lot of times. So you really want to be giving them ample notice. And the bigger the event is, the more notice you want to give to them. For example, if your school is putting on a let's say a winter carnival in February, let's say, you really want to be telling people about it in the fall to kind of prime the pump and just kind of lay that foundation, and then keep reminding people more and more as you get closer to the event. You really can't expect to have a super successful event if you're telling people the day of or the day before. Like I know in my own schedule, like there's just not enough leeway for me to make an adjustment and kind of make it happen if I'm finding out so late. I don't need months and months of advance, but like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks would be great. And the more I have to do to prepare for the event, or the more things that are going to be going on at the event for me to support, then I need more notice. Some families might need notice that they need to save a little extra on the side to participate in the upcoming fundraiser. And if only they'd known, they would have held off on buying the tote bag at Target, and they would have bought one from the fundraiser instead. So I think you get where I'm going with this. Just let people know. And late notice is the same as no notice. The next thing that you can do to really kind of kill your event is to not let teachers and school staff know what you're doing. Again, this goes back to notice. And this is not, and we talked about this last week with getting teachers involved in everything, but this is not so that the teachers will necessarily come, but it is so that they can remind students and families of the upcoming event. Case in point, just before I hopped on the live, I got a message from my son's teacher reminding us about a school event that's happening tomorrow night. Now, it's not something she has planned. It's something that she might not even be going to, but she still took the time to message everybody who signed up to get the email notices or the reminders. She still took the time to give us all that information. So just another way really the key to getting people to show up to things is to hit them from multiple places with the same information, multiple places, multiple times, multiple ways. So you really want to make sure that you are telling parents about events, um, via email, via remind or text message, or on Facebook, on your page, on your Facebook group for your PTA or PTO, or your district, your school district. However you have it set up, make sure that you're getting the word out in all those ways. In addition, see if you can get something put up on your school marquee. See if you can send home flyers. If you can have an announcement made in like the week of, and then especially the day of, about your event. The kids, and get the kids excited. Then they'll go home and say, "Hey, mom or dad, like, hey, I want to participate in this event. I want to go to the school magic show, or I want to go to art night." Like, they're just going to be more inclined to do it. Uh, the parents will be more inclined to take their kids to it if their kids are excited about it and asking for it, right? Like, how often have you been able to turn down your kid who's like, "Please give me go, please give me go to the school trunk or treat. I need extra candy." Right? It totally works on us. So we just need to get the kids excited, and then they'll want to go, and you'll have tons of people at your event. The next thing that you can kind of mess up or take a misstep in getting people to come to your event is to not publicize it with paper. Now, I grew up in a very liberal, progressive part of Ohio, and I am a self-admitted tree hugger. I don't like to waste resources when necessary, but in this, where I've landed with the whole, staying completely digital with everything, or killing a couple trees to get the word out about the flyers, I actually land on killing some trees. So just today, I printed out 525 flyers for a fundraiser for junior high, because it's just absolutely necessary. At that school, parents, the kids are not telling their parents verbally, so you have to send home paper in an effort to try and get the word across. So you're really going to have to look at your population and figure out what works best. It's going to be, and you're going to be able to figure that out through trial and error. Of course, if your district has a policy of being paperless, like so many school districts are going to, then you need to adhere to that and find other ways to get the word out. But if you have the discretion, like, really make sure it fits with your group. It fits with your group's needs, and that it only makes sense to go all digital if people are actually getting the information that they need and are doing what you need them to do with that information. So it only works if you're only telling people digitally, or through digital methods of communication, that about, event A, B, or C, and that they're coming to the events A, B, or C. If they're not actually showing up, then the method isn't working and you need to look at something else. So there's my piece about killing trees. Do it judiciously. The other thing that can really hamper parents coming to events or families coming to events is when the flyers are just flat out bad. Like, stop. I don't think I've shared this with you before, but I really enjoy making flyers, and actually I have a whole bunch of templates available in my shop because I really enjoy good design. And I'm not saying that my flyer designs are the best, but they are pretty comprehensive, and they do contain all of the information that one would need to decide whether or not they can go to an event. And that's why I offer them in my shop, because I've seen one too many bad, like really bad flyers, and thought, oh, I can help with this. But let me tell you what I mean about a bad flyer. So if you are unfamiliar with how to design a flyer, then that kind of increases the likelihood that you might design a bad flyer, because if you don't understand that you should only be using max 2 to 3 fonts per flyer. Like, how many times have you gotten a flyer home and it has about 15 different fonts, and your eye doesn't know where to focus, and it's too hard to read because the fonts are kind of crazy and the graphics are kind of crazy. And it may seem like this is not a big issue, but it is, because if people aren't going to pay attention to the flyer, or if it's difficult to read because of the font choices you've made or that have been made about the flyer, then they're not going to read and they're not going to come. So that'll defeat the purpose. So I'm sure in every school there are people who know how to design flyers for your group or would be happy if that was their only job. So maybe try and ferret them out if you don't have those skills yourself. And if you really don't have anybody, which you do, you just have to find them, then head over on to my shop and check out the options there. And I'll drop a link when we're done. So enough about flyer rants. I get off on it, or I go off on it because I just see a whole heck of a lot of bad flyers. I'm like, oh, this doesn't entice me. It doesn't make me want to go to the event. So others probably feel the same way. So there you go. All right. So the last way that you can get parents and families to absolutely ignore your PTO events, that is by putting on the same old program and events year after year without change. And now for this, I'm not saying you have to totally reinvent the wheel each and every year and that everything has to be like brand new, but you want to keep things fresh. If you're just putting on the same old stale events, then they're not going to come and they're going to be like, that again. And this is especially true if you have a school with like 4 or more grades in them because you're going to have families there for a long time. But even if you have a smaller school, you could still have large families who have had a lot of kids through the system or through that school and are like, it's that event hasn't changed in the decade that we've been here. Like, so I'm tired of going. It's not doing it for me anymore. So if you want to have parents and families come to events, you kind of got to keep things nice and fresh. And you can do it rather simply by just maybe for one of the events, look at swapping out the theme. Like maybe or even the time of year that you have it. So instead of maybe having carnival in winter, have it in fall or have it in spring. Just kind of tweak the timing a little bit, and that just that can be enough to freshen things up. But if families know that every single September there's a cookie or an ice cream social, and then in October there's a trunk or treat, and then in November you have an art program, it's like the same old, people might get bored with that and they won't show up. And the other thing is that the PTO volunteers might get bored with that and they might not want to help plan them anymore. So just change a couple things every year, change things that aren't working, change things that you didn't really have very high attendance at, but that you had publicized well. So if you didn't publicize something well and parents were ignoring the event, then that's maybe not something to change, but like look at that. Was it a bum event? Was it just a really crappy event that nobody was interested in? Or was it the fact that people just didn't know about it, or it was timed at a really bad time of the year? Or maybe there was this always happens in Cleveland because I'm in Cleveland and we have a lot of professional sports teams. And so sometimes it'll, especially recently with the Cavs winning and the Indians doing really well, we've had a lot of championship games. And so sometimes I can throw things up and we're like, maybe it's not smart to have this program or event on game 3 of the World Series. Like, that's not going to work. Parents they're just not going to want to come. So should take that into account. So I hope this has been super helpful, because you don't want families to ignore your events. You want them coming back. You want them to be excited about your events. So make sure to give them plenty of notice. Make sure to tell them about it more than once and in more than one way. And make sure that your flyers that you're sending home, if you're sending them home, or any written communication really that you're making about the event, make sure it's pleasant to the eye. And if you don't know how to do that, find somebody in your school to help you, or hop on over to my shop and check out the choices that are there. So just keep these things in mind. And I hope that you have a great fall, or great events coming up in this fall and hereafter with this advice. So I will catch you next week with another timely topic for PTO leaders. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.